Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Creative Coffee Cafe. If you're catching us live, that's super awesome, and I'm excited to see you here. So make sure that when you show up, you let us know. Put in the comments below that you're here and that you're not a coffee cafe creeper, because that's not cool. My name is Brooke Spaggart, and I'm your host today, as I am every other day. And today's guest is Darryl Turner, who I mentioned briefly in some pre-promotion stuff this morning. He is a Facebook ads specialist and also a funnel specialist for small local businesses, service-based businesses. So thank you so much, Darryl, for joining me today.
Hey, it's good to be here.
It's good to be here. Yes, yes. You're a busy, busy man. We were talking earlier, you just finished wrapping up a big summit and all that stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about you? Like, how did you become a Facebook ad specialist and funnel person? And because I think your background comes from music, right?
Yeah. I don't even know. I think the camera. I think that my picture's just outside the camera shot. We're on Be Live. So first, thanks for having me. This will be fun because I just got through with a summit. So like I've been on the other side of recording people like almost every day for like a month and a half. So it's cool to be on the other side. But yeah, kind of how did I get into this? I was thinking about this the other day. I would argue that I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur right now, and being that I said like here's the life I want to live. How do I get there? Entrepreneurship's the path for me. But there are a lot of steps along the way. So if I think like furthest back, social media has always been very natural to me. If I go back to like my beginning days, it started by accident. There's a period of time I had a lot of free time on my hands. I was in like college and I started a blog. I had started a blog under this name, That Drum Corps Guy, where I talked about music and I gave a lot of advice, and by accident I had built up this huge following. So now influencers are huge. They're like in tens of thousands and millions, but I had built up like 8,000 or so in a very, very, very deep niche where part of this music was traveling. And so like literally I would travel across the country and people would know who I was. So it was like a very, very deep connected community. But what happened from...
So you're like kind of famous.
There was like a brief period of time where, and it was another one of my friends, also same path. We were like internet famous for a couple of years there. So that was a weird thing to look back onto. But yeah, so that's like one of the first areas. And then there's like, a bunch of pivots. And one of the pivots was in college. I just like I didn't like having a job. Like I literally had a job because I had to. I worked almost the exact amount of hours it took to cover my rent because I wouldn't really focus on being a student, but that's what I told myself. I was focused on being a student. So I barely worked. And I made this pivot into teaching music. And in teaching music, I could do that online. I could make like 4 or 5 or whatever times as much as I was doing it like my fast food job. And I was like, I can work, a quarter of the hours and pay my bills. This is awesome. And so I used social media to grow that brand. So it branched off from my blog. It went into Instagram and Facebook, where I had learned like one of the hardest things is like convincing like young adults, especially because like their parents are involved in that, to like let a stranger teach them music over the internet and then like pay that person. So I kind of learned a lot about like understanding like who is the client versus who is the customer and going into these things. And throughout this process, anytime someone wanted something like, hey, I need help with social media, I became like that guy that people would start to talk to. And so I slowly started picking up more and more skills of helping people with their own social media, a lot in the music space. It started to branch out outside of music. And then finally was like this shift where I was doing social media, not enough for it to be like a real full-time job, but enough for me to like pay my bills while I was in school. I lived in like middle of nowhere, Tennessee. Like, okay, so I'll tell you, the rent for my entire apartment was like $500 or $600 for a 3-bedroom apartment. So I only paid a third of that. This is like middle of nowhere, Tennessee, unrealistic bills. But yeah, so this was happening, and kind of how do I mix all the different stories? During this time, I had met the woman who's now my fiance. I had met her while I was overseas, and she yeah, I was on a trip visiting her, and this was still when I was teaching music. And that was the first time where like I had been traveling and I broke even. And I said to myself, like, if I can make as much money as I spent, that means there's a lifestyle for me to profit. And so this was when I guess all of those courses and like the Ty Lopez and the Sam Ovens and the Dan Henry, those internet gurus were teaching like how to make millions online. I never took any of those courses, but I realized that like if 5 or 6 different people are saying this, then this is like a real thing. So like I kind of funnel hack them. I kind of checked out what they were teaching, and I was like, oh, like I didn't know this was a thing. I kind of already been doing this. It was a natural step off of content creation into like trying to get sales and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I said, this is what I'm going to do. And that really big push is that while trying to figure out where I'm going to live with, my fiance, she's a foreign national, she's Swiss, and she was trying to move to the US, and it was a huge problem with finding a job. And so like all of this came together in me saying like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to create a life that we never have to worry about where we're working, where we're living ever again. And this is a thing I already know how to do. I know that people are doing pretty well with this. And I said like, I already like it. I'm just going to double down and get really, really good at this. And that was kind of like my official, I'm a Facebook marketer pivot. And like, so there's a lot of like different branches and like all the little pieces kind of come together. But that was the thing that said, okay, I'm going to now do this. And it's nice. I like it. It was a switch from, I think, social media content is still really, really important. And I don't want anyone, because the content creators, to get on me. But for a lot of different kinds of businesses, the time it takes for content to be like profitable for them is longer than they can afford. Not for every business, for a lot of them. And so when I was switched to like Facebook ads specifically, I could say like, there's no argument. This is what I did and how it affected your bottom line. And that also gave me a little bit more opportunity to make it easier to kind of talk to more clients, right, and kind of go throughout that path. So that's kind of like a lot of different pieces in there, but that's kind of how I made my way into saying like, I do Facebook ads and sales funnels, and like, this is what I do.
Well, I'm kind of glad you brought that up towards the end of your little story there about how content creation to get things moving and momentum does take a little bit more time, effort, and money, right? I was actually just on the phone. You know how Facebook sometimes will send you an email and they're like, hey, we have some ideas on how we can make your ads better. I don't know, do you ever get any of those emails?
Yeah.
Okay, so the last few times I've actually gone ahead and booked my 30-minute with them just to kind of see what they have to say. And it frustrates me a little bit because then you get on the phone with them and we're like, so what can we help you with? And I'm like, you emailed me.
Yeah.
You told me you had something to help me with. But anyways, the last conversation I had with one, he said specifically that if you're not putting organic content on your page and getting some engagement and momentum moving there, your ads can be less effective. Now, what's your take on that? Because I kind of know that to be true. Like, you got to have, Facebook has to know that your business is alive and well and reaching out and doing things on the page. It can't just be stagnant with no posts and then running Facebook ads. I mean, you can, but it works better if you have them running. What's your take on that?
Yeah. Well, I'll say, because I think this will be the first question that will probably touch the topic of the Facebook pixel or the Facebook algorithm. So I will say that I'm not an expert on the algorithm. I don't think anyone is. Maybe a couple of people are. It's a black box of every so often Facebook announces, they say like, yes, these are things that actually matter. And a lot of it is just people spend lots of money, create lots of posts, and they kind of see what the data says. So last I heard, Facebook did go out and say like, yes, you need content on the page. And what the shift that they're looking for is in everything that you do, that it's relevant. So that relevance is dependent on the audience. I don't care to ever buy a pair of pantyhose, but I'm sure women 25 to 50, whatever, are super interested in buying pantyhose. And that's just like a super basic example where relevance is important. And so Facebook's from what I've seen that they've said is that they're going in, they are taking into account the content on your page into your ads and saying like, we don't want just your ads to be relevant. We want like you as a person to be relevant. But there's also some very natural behaviors where a lot of times when you're on Facebook and you see an ad, it's very natural because everything is clickable to like go like, oh, like you see a piece of content or ad you like, and you don't just click on the ad, but you click on the page. And you want to see that that page has more than just that one ad running. So it's definitely important to have the content there. Don't just be pumping out an ad with nothing on there. Now, I will say there are people who say like it works. I've seen it work. Yes, it can work. But then you're like 100% direct response marketing when you don't have any content on there, and when you're trying to take advantage of like building a brand and building awareness, having content on your page is an important part of also having those paid ads.
That's right. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, it extrapolates your results. If you can grow a brand and grow a certain number of amount of awareness around your page and get people interacting and engaging with you there, and then you build out ads, I feel like you're going to have more success with the ads because of that, because now Facebook's going to make sure it delivers it right first and foremost to the people who have recently engaged on your page. And then, like we were talking kind of briefly, and we'll get into it later about like the retargeting. You need to have the engagement and stuff first on your page in order for you to even retarget in the first place. So, you know, it's kind of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, right? Definitely. And it's like, and I think that, you know, the chicken and the egg, what should you do first? I mean, the answer is you should do both. Just because honestly, when you think about what's happening now with organic reach is less, Facebook used to be you could put all of your energy on content and delivery happened by itself. And now you really have to focus on content and delivery as two separate pieces. You need to be like a true, not say you weren't a content creator before, but you need to think like radio, you need to think like TV, like you filmed the show, it's got to get on Netflix somehow or needs to get out to the people. Those are two areas to focus on. And so like, I know your audience is a lot of people, they're kind of up and starting. Some people who don't have as big of budgets. And I think there's both ways work. Like you start out with like tons and tons and tons of content, and then you go ads, and then saying like, I'm just going to straight out the gate and try to make money and then build the content. Those are the extreme ends. They both work. There's not like a perfect, like, well, if you have this kind of business and this budget, this is the one you need to use. Like that, unfortunately, does not exist.
I get that question a lot. What's a good amount? What's a good budget? What's a good amount of money to spend on Facebook ads? And I'm like, well, the answer is it depends. You know, like how much money do you have to spend to make money? And I kind of come from the place where I feel like the organic posting on your page, it not only gets you creating the content, but it also gets you finding out what's working with your audience and what's not, and the timing of, you know, because it's not always the message. Sometimes it's the timing. Like, you know, don't be posting stuff first thing in the morning if your audience is more online in the evenings and like that kind of thing. These key pieces will help you when you're building out your Facebook ads, because then in Ads Manager, you can select what times of day your ads are being delivered to people, you know, what sort of interests and like the retargeting, all that stuff we were talking about. So I kind of feel like the organic posts are necessary, even just for building out better Facebook ads. Right?
Yeah, definitely. And I was thinking about this with when it comes to budget. Really, it's a bottomless pit. There's not like a perfect amount for everyone.
Facebook will take your money. Doesn't matter how much money you throw at them. They'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think one of the things I like about direct response marketing is that one, it scales pretty well, but it's pretty easy to say like, hey, I spent $10 here and I got it back within 30 days, 60 days, whatever, hopefully sooner. But I think one of the things to consider when we're looking at creation and then distribution, and this is like more on the content side than is the ads side necessarily, but kind of think about, you could spend with content, you have the opportunity to spend a lot more energy and time for sure, but you can say like, you can spend a lot of money into content And if that's good content and you have kind of not like magic, like if you're primed for it to go, I mean, you can have that have a huge delivery, and that's where like you see videos go viral. I'm not saying like you need to make something every time with the intention of it going viral, but
Yeah.
putting a ton of time, money, and energy into the content just makes the delivery side like way easier. It's much more natural for someone for it to be able to take off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's kind of that thought.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Awesome. I see some people kind of coming in and out here. So if you're just joining us, make sure you stop in and say hi. Darryl and I like to see who's joining us at the table and being a part of the conversation. So, and if you're catching the replay, then feel free to comment too, because we can always respond after the show as well. So you work specifically with service-based businesses. So from what you've told me, like dentists, chiropractors, massage therapists, and stuff like that. Now, that's a very, like, those businesses offer a very specific type of service. So I guess what kinds of advice or what kinds of things can you share with people who are kind of like, for example, if I'm a massage therapist, I basically have one service I provide. Maybe it's the time or the length of the massage is different, but that's my core thing. So I guess what do you see is working right now? What do you see maybe coming down the pipe, and what sort of things should people who have businesses like that be looking to do or looking to incorporate into their stuff?
So I think I'll start with one type of campaign, one type of Facebook thing that works, what's working for these industries. So one of them, I think people have probably heard it. They've probably heard it. If they've not heard it, they've seen it, like the crazy discount funnel. I think that term was coined by like Dan Henry. He's a big person who teaches a lot of the Facebook marketing things. He teaches that on like his free webinar. So a lot of people, they've probably seen it ad themselves, where like someone's talked about how they gave something away for like 90% off, or maybe they've had someone suggest doing that to them with like their own business. So that side does work. And kind of the ideology is that like this whole concept of the value ladder, you get someone in a low price or a low value offering so that you can walk them up later. That totally works. Now, it doesn't always have to be a discount necessarily, but it does need to be something on the lower value side. So that could be something like a trial. It could be a free trial. It could be a low cost paid trial. If you're saying like I cost, let's make it easy. I cost $30 per, actually let's do it this way. Your service costs $28 per month. You, instead of forcing them to get the whole month, you allow them to do 7 days for $7. So you haven't really discounted your service there, but you've presented people a lower barrier to entry.
Right. It's another to take in, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that lets people
commit to you.
Yeah, lets them exactly. It lets them try before they buy. It lets them kind of see like, hey, what is this? With massage therapists, one of the ones that we see also in this end is like, we'll call it like Groupon style. And that's like a really cool one that you can like, I know is Groupon as big in Canada? I don't know if it's as big in Canada as in the US.
Is your centers. For me personally, I don't use it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's like another area you could look where you can go see an ad or an offering that's on Groupon and recreate that. A lot of that time it can be like 50% off, like a service, 75%, whatever, some sort of deep discount. But what's important in that is that if you're a service-based provider and you're going to use this, if you're going to use a true discount on your services, then you need to understand that making the money is about repeat clients. So if you are a one and done kind of service provider, or you don't see clients very often, then that is not the strategy for you. Because you I see with massage therapists, they say like, I feel like I'm giving all my services away, and it's like you bought a new client and now it's time to keep them. Like, yes, you lost 50% on that first time, but the whole point wasn't to make money off that first time. It was about saying, here's someone who's engaged with you, who's actually experienced your services. You're phenomenal at what you do. They love it. And now you can say, hey, come back. Let's do more. Let's get you back once a month, once every 3 months, whatever. So that's kind of that front end. So for service-based businesses, that it's almost like a one and done, or maybe even like a once a year, that's probably not the style that you want to go towards, because you will be giving away your money, or what you've got. The other side is, low value, just saying like, okay, can you give away something for free or low value? Then, like I said, like a trial period, or something that's, let's say you normally have a package that's X amount of time or X amount of services, then see if you can give like a smaller version of that, so that someone's really truly paying for the smaller cost. If you offer 15 things, offer just 2 of them at a lower price. You offer, course is not service based, but that's like an easy way to compare it. If your course is 20 lessons, give them 2 lessons,
a mini,
at a lower price.
Right.
Exactly. And so, use that kind of ideology.
So for these one and done, sort of like, perhaps I only need, so the first one that kind of comes to mind is like getting your furnace ducts cleaned. I think that's it's recommended to do that once a year or once every 2 years or something like that. Anyways. So for those kind of businesses, obviously you don't want to do like 50% off or anything big like that. So would you suggest to them to start thinking about ways of like, giving them added value perhaps for the same price to bring them in? So it's like, let us come in and do this service for this price, but if you book now or between now and whatever, we will also add in this.
Yeah, I definitely recommend value adds on the other side. And one thing I'll say about once a year type customers for service-based businesses, that can be, some maintenance type things. When we go back to thinking about acquisition cost versus lifetime value, what does it cost to get someone to be your customer, whether that is time or hours, or said time twice, money or time.
Time or money.
What is that? Yeah. What does that cost versus what you get out of them? Certain types of businesses that when they think of lifetime value, like over 5 or 6 years makes a lot of sense. And for other businesses, I think just like as a society, people are a little bit more transient. There's still people that like stay and live in one place for a very long time. And that's like a good thing to factor in. But when you know that your client is only around for 2 or 3 years, then you need to say like, am I actually going to make that money back in this 3-year period? So there's that kind of just aside for those like once a year or like not very often sort of clients. But yeah, value adds, definitely. The price is always the price, but if you come in now, we're going to double this, or we're also going to throw in the car freshener for free, like whatever is that little extra piece, definitely is a good tactic to use.
Yeah. I've actually consulted with a massage therapist once before too. And that was kind of the conversation I had with her. And I feel like, especially, massage therapists, hairdressers, all that stuff, like it is a lot of time and energy to perform your service, right? So it is hard to discount that. But the 2 points I wanted to bring up on that conversation is, one, the cost of you offering your service at a discount, like let's just say half price, I bet you couldn't do any other form of advertising and guarantee one person walking through the door and laying on your massage bed or sitting in your salon chair or whatever for that price, right? So you got to think of it as, this is an advertising cost. I am paying X amount of dollars to bring this client in to provide the service at a discount, because that's cheaper than me spending money elsewhere. And then, like you said, it really comes down to that person and your follow-up and your customer service. Like, if you're actually good at what you do and you're just like, hey, let's book again. You're going to need to come in for another color in 4 to 6 weeks, or another massage in 4 to 6 weeks. Let's book that now and whatever. That's when they become your customer, and you can continue to reap the rewards of your advertising costs to initially get them in, right?
Yes.
Definitely. Am I preaching to the choir?
Yeah. And there's a lot of advantages. Just like you now have people. It's not just like rebooking them for whatever your service is again, but you now have a body of people that need almost no convincing. And so when you're a service-based business, like let's say like hair salon, massage therapist, something that's based around like time slots, you have like this body of people that like, oh man, July is going to be slow. Let me send a quick email out. Those people like don't need convincing. Those are the kinds of people that at this point, like $5 off is enough for those people. Like, oh yeah, I loved Mary. I love the way she cut my hair. It has been a while since I've gotten a haircut. I'm totally going to go in and take this $5 off. So the rewards are just it's almost always worth it. And then I don't want to get super crazy into like numbers, but the ideal situation for I think most businesses using not just this strategy, but really any strategy is if your acquisition cost is lower than your front end, the value of your front end offer. And so basically what I mean is like, as a marketer, when we break even, we're happy because we can sell people stuff later. But for a lot of businesses, if you're like, if that's what you do every day, you can't afford to break even. So maybe you're saying like, let's kind of just make it really easy. Let's say normally your massage is $100 an hour.
Yep.
You're about to do Facebook ads. An amazing situation would be it costs $25 to get that new client, and the discount you're giving is $50. And so like, congrats. Now you have given away some of your services, but you've also actually profited on the first service, even when it was at a discount. And that's like the ideal situation that you can run into.
Meaning they did the massage and made $25. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Okay. They made $25 on the first massage, which some people were thinking like, but I only made $25, but it's like,
I normally make 100, right?
Yeah. But like, you bought a customer, you got paid to buy a customer. And like, that's amazing. That's like, look at the numbers. Like they were, I know you feel like you gave something away, but the math works. You got paid to buy a new customer, and that's like the perfect situation.
And the next time they come in and they pay you full price, it's 100% profit because you now have no cost of acquisition or ad spend, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I feel like for a lot of people, it's hard to think of doing something like that, especially when maybe you're in a position in your business where you're just getting by, like when times are slow, or like you said, sometimes as business owners, we do just like barely break even. So sometimes it's hard to think of giving away your service as a way of acquiring a new customer. But it's one of those things like you have to kind of play with it, trial it out, do that for a specific period of time and see at the end, look at your numbers. Did it benefit you? Was it worthwhile? Or if you're not, on the other side of it, like we talked about, if you're not excited about giving your service away at half price and only maybe making the $25, do an added on thing. Say, book my regular massage at this price, but I will also add in hot stone and essential oils or Reflexol, like whatever else that you can provide and add it on at no charge and get them coming in that way. So now you're maybe making a larger profit on the front end too, even after ad spend and whatever else, right?
Exactly. And I think it all comes down to numbers, and that's where a lot of people don't know their numbers. I see this. I see this in Facebook. I'm in a lot of like dental is another industry that I'm really deep into, and I see in the Facebook groups the arguments of like, don't give away a free cleaning exam. And there's so many people who are like, well, we actually tracked all of our patients across 2 years for like who got a freebie and who didn't get a freebie, and the math worked out that the people who got the freebie, it was less expensive for us to get them in the door, and we made more off of them over a 2-year period. And so it's like, I know emotions kind of get into it, but it's just like numbers don't lie, and sometimes the value add is going to be better. I'm not going to say which one is better or worse. There's like psychology into like what kind of person takes a certain kind of offer and all that stuff, but like look at your numbers at the end of the day, and if it's like, hey, this thing isn't working for you, then try something else.
Yeah, I agree. I think I can't believe how many conversations I have with people where they've never looked even at just their basic analytics on their page. Like they don't know what's working and what's not working. And so like, how do you make a decision when you don't have all the information to do that? I strongly encourage everybody to look at their numbers and think about different ways and things that you can do to get more customers in or whatever in a way that feels good, feels real to you. Because if you're pissed off the whole time that you're doing that massage and you know you're only making $25, do you really think you're going to serve them at the best of your ability? Right?
Yeah. And I think the number I think we're talking about that people need to know is the true number is what are you willing to spend to have someone as one of your customers? Yeah. And what goes into that is, understanding how much do they spend on average, including like a discount sort of deal, and how often do they come in, and just saying like, okay, I know that this person is worth we say lifetime value. Understand that if your client, you only see them on average for 6 months, then that, like, you need to know that versus
That's the
5
life.
or 10 years.
Yeah.
Don't make it this crazy huge number that isn't true to your situation, but saying like, okay, I know that I see them over a period of 3 years on average before I never see someone again. During those 3 years, I get $5,000 off of them sounds so like so
Yeah.
fake. I give $5,000 worth of value. There we go.
There you go.
During this time period. And so, I mean, technically you should be willing to spend $4,999 and like you'd still make a profit. But, then you understand like, okay, what's my cash flow, and understanding like it, I know I can spend the 4,999 technically and still make a profit, but it's saying like, okay, in this next period of time, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, looking at my cash flow, can I also afford that same number for acquisition costs? Because I know that's a reality. That like, if bills weren't a real thing or whatever, I'd be like, cool, spend $2,000 and go get that person right now. But look at your cash flow and be realistic. Don't try and turn $1 into $1 million. I see that a lot of the times, and it's like, I'm sorry, it costs you $50 acquisition. It just does. Like, you're still profiting. You just have to. You need to bite the bullet for a second. The next 30 days might be not fun, but the numbers will work out.
Right. Yeah, everybody's situation is different, right? So you got to kind of look at that. Yeah. There was something brilliant that had come to mind when you were talking, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Now it's sort of, I'm hoping that it will come back to me. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about Facebook ads then. I want to know, because we had kind of talked a little bit previously too. Is there maybe 2 or 3 tips or things that you could give us, pieces of advice on ways to improve our Facebook ads, or things we should be thinking about or looking at when we're trying to dive into that world? Maybe we're ready. Maybe we've been posting good regular content. We're ready to do some ads.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So I try to make some notes so that they'll make sense. So here's just like one tip, and this is kind of a tactic more than it is necessarily like a tip, I guess. Tell your story whenever you can. I think what we've seen, and Mark Zuckerberg was like really clear that he's wanting Facebook to be more relevant and more engaging. And so Facebook is, Facebook's prioritizing that. And I think people, like, social media is like one of the fastest moving things ever, of like what worked like a year or 2 ago may not work today. But tell your story, be a real person. People, it's that like start with why idea, your vibe attracts your tribe, all of these like tenets of like marketing that work anywhere. Tell your story on Facebook. You're going to be able to attract that ideal client, that ideal customer for you. And you're going to have something that honestly, it stands out when everyone's posting an ad, just a normal casual ad, or hey, buy this right now. You like a selfie of you and the story of why you do the thing that you do stands out a ton. And then the logistics side, we'll talk about my other tips, but you can now, like, you've built now a bigger audience of people who like your page, like who've clicked on your stuff, that you can send more ads to later down the line. And it's generally cheaper, and they care more about what it is that you have to offer. So tell your story. That's my one tip. And the bigger tip of that,
sometimes tell their story though, right? Like, people are afraid to, I know lots of business owners that I work with, they're afraid to just take a picture of themselves, or, or do a video and talk about, like, why are you in this business? Why are you passionate about what you do? Sometimes it's like pulling fucking teeth to get them to do that. And I get that people don't like to be on camera, or, oh, I'm not having a good hair day, or like whatever. But I honestly believe what you're saying too, that the people that like you, like your story, are interested in you, they will take the time to follow your page, sign up for your newsletters, be a part of your space. And they are way more receptive to you whenever you send out an offer or talk about your products and services than I guess the other people that you're attracting maybe just through their standard ad, cold ad, like not really letting them in a little bit into your space. It's
Yeah.
two different kinds of clients or tribe members that you're bringing in, and you really want the quality over the quantity.
Yeah, definitely. And this is like an aside of like, I'm not, no one needs to change their whole business, but what everyone needs to realize is that your business as in practices is probably not near as unique as you think it is. Just like there are other people who do Facebook ads for dentists, and you can tweak some of your service offerings, and every so often someone's going to come out with something that is like truly unique, a new product like that's never been there before. But especially for service-based businesses, you know, quality should be assumed. All of these other things, like you're going to get the job done, should be assumed. And then it's like, you know, I have a choice of where I'm going to spend my money. A and B checklists look the same, but the girl who like, you know, who runs business A told me about her family, and I just like really love that, and I connected with it, and I know that when I give her money, that like I'm helping her daughter like get braces or like whatever it is, like that thing that does make a difference on your bottom line, having people, if all else is equal, because honestly, you can tell everyone why you're better, but most people like really they don't know. They quite frankly don't know. People will connect with you and they'll be like, yeah, that's the person that
Yeah.
I want to do business with.
Like I can sell widgets and somebody down the street can sell the exact same widgets. And it's the same with service-based businesses. You know, a massage therapist I'm not downplaying people in the training and whatever they do, right? Like you said, to the general public, I guess, or the people who aren't familiar with that industry, you're the same as the next guy. But if you share your story a bit more, or you're more available on social media so that people feel like they can reach out to you and hear from you quickly and get questions answered, or they see you in the community, you're supporting the community, being a part of fundraisers and different things like that, that can be the little difference, the tipping point in which I hope that come through clear, because I see that the video has kind of.
Yeah, but I mean, I heard you clear. I hope everyone else watching us got that clear.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We might have looked like we were like when we were talking, but as long as the audio come through clear in that, because I think that was really good. That can be the tipping point. That can be what sets you apart from the other guy initially, until you get that person coming through the door and experiencing your product or your service and the customer service that you provide. Then and only then can you say, I am different than the next guy, because now they've had the full experience and they understand that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you've never been to Disney, then it's just another theme park. And once you've been to Disney, you're like, oh my God, I get it now. This is why everyone like loves this thing. It makes sense. So that's what happens. Like you got to know. You look like people don't know, you know, in the beginning. So that's kind of my first tip, and tell your story. And it's a good segue for like my next tip, because what it really is when we're looking at like targeting people and we're not going straight out for, hey, buy this, we're maximizing our budget. A lot of times we're looking for the cheapest but most impactful way to get awareness. You know, we think about funnels, which we haven't even said that word that often, but we think about like awareness, consideration, conversion. Like before anyone buys something, they need to know who you are. And at that level, telling a story, being original, is usually cheaper, but it's also probably the most bang for your buck, cost-effective, impactful way, which goes into step 2, which is retargeting. So kind of branch those two steps together. Another technique you can use is use video. Like use video, go live, pre-recorded, like whatever. And this allows people to connect with you in a different way now. And this is not just telling your why, but maybe it's showing off your service. Maybe it's, I don't know, there's endless things you can do. You can have your own reality show, or you can go on the more professional side where you're talking about your products and services. But with video, you can now retarget people, not just anyone in general, but like you can say, like if you did a video about, I don't know, let's say you sell pools, and like you did a video about like how to clean your pool. You know, the people who watch that are either super curious or they probably actually have a pool, which
Right.
means when you're like sending an ad for your pool cleaning services or something like that, now like people who watch this one specific video are probably the people who are my ideal customers, and you want to send an ad to those people versus the people who just watch the video of like kids playing in the pool. Maybe they're just looking for like a fun summer activity and they're not exactly your ideal customers. So
Correct.
take advantage of like, Facebook is like this Ferrari, and like it's like so many people are just like a 16-year-old who like just got their license, and it's like if you knew what this thing could do, like
Yeah.
you'd have a lot of fun pulling out all the stops.
Totally. I love that. And for those that don't know and maybe haven't played with Facebook ads that much, when you're retargeting or building a custom audience or a lookalike audience for something like how-to video on how to clean your pool, and then you want to retarget your ads to those people because you assume they likely have a pool, you can do it so that you're retargeting the people that watch that video to at least 75% or something like that. Like you can get rate specific. Maybe I watched it for the first 25% of the video because it came on across my news feed. You had some really cool like animation stuff or whatever. It caught my attention. Then once I realized, oh, I don't really care to learn how to clean a pool because I don't have a pool, and then I'm out. Like those aren't really the people you want to retarget to. But if I watched your video 75% of the way or more, there's a good chance that I was actually watching your video and not just snooping, right?
Exactly. And you want to take advantage of that. So that kind of goes into, I guess, my third general tip is learn how to use the ads manager inside of Facebook. There used to be ads manager and power editor, which those are no longer separate things, which if you've never used it before, doesn't matter. I'm actually not sad. It literally functionally, it's the exact same thing. But basically, one, there's like strategy and blah, blah, blah. But I think a lot of times the boost button is like playing the lottery. And you don't want to just
put it there because they're a business that needs to make money. And they send notifications saying, hey, this post is getting 97% more whatever engagement than your previous post, which I think is hilarious because for some people, you may not have posted anything for the last week. So, duh.
Yeah, of course.
And then people are like, hey, cool, I'm going to boost this.
Yeah, and then they come to me or I talk to someone about why Facebook's great, and they're like, well, I spent $13.50 on a boost and I didn't make any money. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, like shame on Facebook.
The coffee cost at Starbucks.
Yeah,
right.
It's like shame on Facebook for giving you that impression that all you had to do was hit that button and you'd be like cha-ching, like amazing business owner. That's not exactly how that works.
If it was that easy, we'd all be rolling around in that Ferrari.
Seriously. Yeah, exactly. So with ads manager, for a lot of people, I get when you're a small business, you're wearing all the hats. But I just think either learning how to do it yourself, or if you got like a cousin, a brother, a son, a daughter, a business partner, like someone needs to learn how to use ads manager. And basically what it'll do is it will like, takes the training wheels off, or like it lets you actually start to take this Ferrari and start to feel out all the tools. Yeah. And what ads manager will allow you to do is, it's technically not ads manager per se, but you need to know the back end of Facebook to like how to create the audience who watch a specific video, how to create an audience of people who visited your website, how to create these lookalike audiences. All of these things you've probably heard about. Anyone can do. You just have to like know where they're at. I highly recommend, I call it like YouTube University. Just so many people put out free content that you just like, you need to spend. It's probably going to take more than a day, honestly. You need to map out maybe a couple days to just learn of like, here's where you click buttons to produce a desired effect. The basics of like, how do I build an ad inside of Ads Manager? Just like, instead of just using the boost post, learn that basic. The next level is like, how do I create an audience inside of Ads Manager so that I know like, okay, I don't just want to do 50-kilometer radius, ages 18 to 65, interested in dogs. You want to say like people who visited this one specific page of my website, or whatever, these really finite things that people talk about doing. You just have to learn how to do them. And YouTube is a great place.
Before you can run. And I feel like people, when they want to learn how to do something like using Ads Manager, it's like, okay, I've got an hour. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch as many videos as I can. I'm going to become an expert in this, and I'm going to be able to do it. Like, there's a reason why guys like you have businesses and people like me offer the services we do, right? We've invested more time in doing it. We have more experience and stuff behind it. You can't just hop onto YouTube and expect to understand how to do it. But if you have the desire to learn, you can seek out that information. And, there's multiple ways to do that. You can find somebody who's an expert and buy their course and take a course, or you can spend the time to find the free content and start learning that way first before you invest in hiring somebody or whatever. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I feel like the people that just kick back and say, oh, it doesn't work for me, or like you said, I spent $13 and it doesn't work. Like, those might be the people that are, because they don't have the desire or the capacity to like understand that,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly,
have a job.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's like I have an entire business built on a platform that is technically free, and it's like it's just, I don't want to scare anyone off, but that kind of shows you like the level of like what it, on the high end of what it can take to really like know every single bell and whistle. But it doesn't mean you need to do all of that to be successful. I think with learning Ads Manager, I would say the biggest tip that someone can do that is a really, really big shift in marketing for most people is the concept of split testing. Split testing has been around forever. It's just saying, A/B testing is simple. Like, okay, if we'll go back to like the physical world, you're a massage therapist, you want to hand out flyers. Does the flyer with a picture of a woman getting a massage work better than the picture of the flyer of a man getting a massage? That's like your basic. Or does my $10 off offer work better than my 25? Or did the flyers at the daycare work better than the flyers at the school? Like, those are things that you're testing out. And with Facebook, it becomes, you need to know what you're doing, but it becomes really easy to go really quickly. Like, I tell new clients when they're like, most of my clients are people who've tried it themselves and then like couldn't do it for whatever reason they want to take over. And what I do is I say, like, we're not going to create one ad. We're probably going to create like 32 at a time or something like that.
Because the most you can create, I think, is 49 or something, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. And you can, and then you can like, you can like, I forget what the actual cap is, but then you have the ability to like, you can say like, I want 10 ads, and then you can say I want 10 ads to just women age 21, just women age 22, just like, there's so many ways that you can split this up into tiny pieces. But that's one of the biggest advantages, is that I'll say the thing that marketers don't want to say. There's so much stuff that we don't actually know. What we do know is how to take very, very, very good educated first steps, and then how to look at the data we get from it and make the correct change from it. So when you made one ad and you hit boost and you spent $25 on one post, you're like, oh, it didn't work. It's like, well, the approach I would have taken, even within the same $25, it's kind of hard at that scale, but saying like, I would have made 5 ads, and I would have 5 ads twice over, these same 5 to men and these same 5 to women. And somewhere in there's probably a combination that was the winner, and I would have shut the other ads off. And that's the real beauty. Just assume you don't know. You need a couple more versions to really see what's the real winner.
Yes. I love that. That is good advice. You can't just create one ad and basically put all your hopes and prayers in that and expect it to generate you results. And I love the flyer analogy, because that's something that people all understand, right? Like, you can design a poster and just simply change the picture, and it's got a totally different feel or attraction to it. You have to do the same thing with your ads. So I've heard people talk, before we wrap things up, I have heard people talk about the first certain amount of money you spend when you get into Facebook ads. You should just actually consider that research dollars. figuring, like, to do these split testing things and find the ads that work for you? I know there's no really magic number, but what's a realistic dollar?
I think the dollar amount is really hard because, well, I'll say this.
Maybe a percentage, because a percentage might be easier because it depends on what you're selling.
Yeah, a percentage is a little bit easier. I'll say this. So for like, a dollar amount, it's going to depend on who you're targeting, blah, 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 all these other things. Just know this, that with social media, you have opportunities for huge wins. Like we're talking like 10, 15, 20x ROI is all completely possible.
Yeah.
But those aren't like straight out the gate most of the time. That's not the case. If you wanted to say like what's a more likely case, I would much rather say conservatively 2 to 5 times return, but even then, like 1.5 times return is still a positive return.
You can break even or even lose. I don't even like to say lose a bit of money, but if it costs you a little bit, that is your ad cost. That is no different than putting an ad in the paper or putting something on the radio or buying a page in a magazine. That cost is your cost no matter if anybody looks at it or sees it anyways, regardless, right? So if you can approach Facebook ads the same way, instead of people for some reason thinking, I put $5 in, I make 50, like you got to put the money in first and figure out what's working. Just like you find that one, whatever, newspaper ad that gets everybody running to the door, then you're going to keep doing the same thing. Like,
exactly. And so like, and I say that to say like, if you sell $1,000 product or service and you're like, I have $10 to spend on Facebook ads, I'm like, you might as well just like go buy lunch with your $10. I mean, like, yes, you can get a little bit out of it, but just kind of keep that in mind. A really common rule of thumb is 20%. And that's where you're saying there's it's kind of frustrating because it's like, it really is a blank canvas of how you do it, but 20% is one of the most common things that people do, where if you're saying like, okay, I've arbitrarily decided based on whatever factors, my marketing budget is $500. The first 20% is not even dedicated to making anything. That 20% is purely like, I'm going to throw out a bunch of ads to a bunch of different audiences, and then I'm going to say that and say like, okay, this is what worked, this is what didn't. And then you can, if you find a winner in that first 20%, you dump the 80% into the one winner. If you still don't find a winner, then you take another 20% and you say, well, what were my top 5 ads or something? What were my top, choices? Or maybe you need to say, you need to take your top couple and then throw in some more versions, spend another 20%, and then you're just optimizing. It's in most cases, it's a matter of if, not a matter of when. Or actually opposite. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if. It's like, it will work for you. When will it work for you? And will it be a cost that you can afford? For some businesses, like it may, it could take a really long time, and that could be based on your own personal skill as an advertiser, as a marketer. And it could be something that's just like not profitable. That does happen for some way people make ad campaigns. It's like, yes, I'm getting customers, but I'm losing money at a rate that I can't afford. Something needs to change. But you just have to get through the tweaks, and you will find like the ad campaign that gives you clients or customers.
Yeah, I love it. That's great advice, Darryl. And I think that's the step that a lot of people are missing or forgetting about, is that it's not, like everybody keeps throwing this terminology around, like Facebook is making it's a pay to play platform that you have to pay in order to be seen. I don't 100% agree with that, but those that maybe are saying that and feeling that are the ones that have been doing it wrong. And, they feel.
Yeah, you can't suck. That's just like, that's one of the things, whether it's in content or paid advertising. I wish, someone sent me a screenshot of like this photo of like Zuckerberg with like flames, and it was like, don't blame Facebook because you suck at advertising. And that's just kind of something. Yeah, it's like, that's something to just keep in mind. Like, you may not be as good as you think you are at creating. The numbers are going to tell you. It's not Facebook doesn't work. It's like, you didn't create content relevant to the audience you're trying to talk to. That's the formula. So is the audience wrong, or is the content wrong? You got to look at both. And same with the ads. Is the offering wrong? Is the picture wrong? Is like whatever wrong? Or is the audience wrong? It's that match of what the relevancy of the offer, the content to that audience. And that's the sweet spot. Facebook isn't like you can do really well with free Facebook if you're really, really good at putting content out there and your audience really loves it. So that's the worse you are, the more you are forced to pay. Facebook like penalizes you when you keep trying to sell men pantyhose. It's going to get really expensive because they don't care. That's what's happening.
Exactly. I love it. I've actually said before too, it's not that Facebook doesn't work. It's that you're not working Facebook. Right.
Exactly.
And when you were saying that, I kept thinking too, maybe you're not even like, don't get mad at me for saying this, but like, maybe you're not even good at what you do for a business. Like,
that's like a real question.
Facebook ads, once you figure them out and whatever, can work for you to help you acquire new clients and bring them in. But if when I walk through your door, your staff are sitting there playing on their phones and they don't care about me, you don't have knowledge in your products or services, you're just a shit personality, and like everything else that your office is dirty or whatever, like there's so much more that goes into it. So when something doesn't work, don't blame it on Facebook ads. Don't blame it on the person maybe doing the ads for you. You got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's a whole thing I go into. Like if you're going to hire someone, it's not so much like what you need to ask them as much as also being aware of like, are they asking you questions? If you're like, I need to hire someone and they don't ask a question about your business, they're like, yeah, I can make it work. That's a red flag on them. And like for us, when I'm auditing people, I can't turn like crap into gold. I will tell you if like,
put a fucking bow on it, sprinkle glitter on it. Pretty.
I had I don't turn people down a lot, but I had a call recently where it was a dentist and they wanted patients for a service that they like weren't even necessarily doing. And I was like, well, there's probably a reason for that, you aren't able to do it. And they wanted patients. They wanted a kind of patient they didn't have. And I was like, well, where are you located? Like, well, we're located in like this kind of neighborhood. And I was like, I can't convince someone to drive like 20 miles, 50 kilometers, because that's where the people are who you want to see to come to your office. Like that's not a Facebook problem. That's your business needs to change some other things. So like, are you bad at what you do? Or is your business not set up to find people? Those are like, that can have its own multiple hour talk, but that another thing to seriously consider. Like if those are bad, every dollar you spend on advertising is going to be a waste.
Totally. Well, very good. I think this is a fantastic talk. I think we got lots of good little golden nuggets and bits of advice there that, I don't know. Again, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but it's my show and I can say what I want. But like, I kind of feel like a lot of this stuff is just fucking common sense to a certain degree. And we live in these spaces, so these are like common things that we are looking at and doing. But yeah, I love the crap analogy. Like you can't expect me to sprinkle glitter and put a bow on a piece of crap and sell it to somebody and convince them that it's not crap because it's still crap.
I think everyone should go like, congrats, you're a business owner now. You have to wear every single hat unless you have a team. Go read 3 to 5 marketing books and then go learn how Facebook works. That Facebook's just the tool. Like if you suck at telling people about what you do, doesn't matter if it's a YouTube ad, a Google ad, a Facebook ad, a flyer, none of that matters. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind before, like, maybe Facebook doesn't suck. Maybe you suck at convincing people to use your product or service. So kind of keep that in mind.
Yeah. And I do like that you said too, that a lot of the people you work with are somebody who's already tried doing it on their own. They're already kind of familiar with it. Like as a business owner, if you are going to outsource or hire somebody to do Facebook ads or build content for you or whatever, the full range of what you and I do for people, you do have to have an idea of how it works so that you can, I guess, accurately work alongside the partner and the person that you brought in to help you. So you do kind of have to do a little bit of research and kind of figure it out on your own, right? Like,
yeah, you want to know, I think Facebook ads are not as mystical as like SEO can be, where people get ripped off in SEO all the time because they don't know like what's happening. Yes. And it's really easy to like tweak the numbers. With me, like I'd have to try really, really hard to make the numbers look positive if I wasn't producing any results. It's really obvious really quickly if we're not producing results. But you need to, you just need to know like just some basic stuff of like, what does this ad look like? You don't maybe need to know all the benchmark numbers of every little detail, but like you just need to kind of have a general sense of like, what is the person doing for you and what are they telling you should happen? Like, is what they said happening? Is it actually happening? Yeah. Like, are they meeting your expectations? If they're not, something's wrong. Either your expectations were wrong or they told you wrong or they're not good at what they're doing or something's wrong. So you just kind of need to have a general sense, and that'll help you not only not get ripped off. I think there's a lot of really good people, but just like not waste money. The downside of when you're a service provider, and that's where like someone like us or me and you need to really, really know what we're doing, is like when you walk up to someone and they have a hammer, like your problem suddenly looks like a nail, and you need someone that says like, hey, that's actually not a nail, that's a screw, and my hammer is not going to work. You don't want to walk into that situation with someone.
Another good analogy. Look at you. Love it. Bum. Kind of like the drum roll of the drum corps guy.
Yeah.
You don't do mic drops, you do drum rolls.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, so that's just kind of keep that in mind in this whole industry. It's not like there are people who may rip you off, but a lot of it is just there's people who just like they're not the people to solve your problem, and they don't realize that they're not the people to solve your problem, and you just want a general sense of that. Yeah,
or they might be the person to solve your problem, but you haven't given them all the elements they need in order to do that effectively.
Yeah,
right.
That's definitely.
So yeah, it's research on both parts. It's just being a good human being and just being open and honest with people. And I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to just benefit from this, right? We're not successful if our clients aren't successful, really is what it comes down to. So thank you again, Darryl, so much for joining me today and to talk about this stuff. I am thankful for everybody who's kind of popped in and out throughout the show, even though we didn't really have a very active audience today, but that's cool. If anybody has any questions about anything we've talked about, feel free to comment below this video. Myself and Darryl will be able to see it, and we can answer your questions and be more than happy to follow up with you and to point you in the right direction. So thanks again, Darryl. I wish you all the best in your big move over the big pond.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Try not to eat too much chocolate.
No problem. But I'll do my best.
Perhaps you could send some chocolate back this way.
I mean, I'll just say if you can remember to send me a message in like 2 or 3 months, I'll do it. I'm not going to remember to do it by my own, but if you can remember to do it, and here I am like recorded saying that I'll do it. If you can remember, I'll send you something.
Perfect. Yeah. I've been to Switzerland too, long time ago. It was fantastic. And yeah, I might have to get you to send you some of my faves. All right. We'll let everybody go. So you stick around for a few minutes here, Darryl, and we'll wrap things up. And thanks again, everybody, for joining me on the Creative Coffee Cafe. Again, I am Brooke, and we'll see you soon. If you want to make sure that you catch the Creative Coffee Cafes in the future, in the comments, you can just put coffee, and you'll subscribe to getting a message from me and letting you know when we're doing the next one with a busy summer schedule. So talk to you soon. Everybody have a fantastic day. Bye for now.